Welcome back to my channel. I hope you've all had a great New Year's and are looking forward to a bright new year. It's 2021. I know it was a tough year for 2020, but hopefully with the new year, we can all start on the right foot. And I have been thinking about that, on the right foot, and looking back at some of the things that I've done over the years and taking inventory of my life. And one of the things that kept popping up was the mass amount of video games that I've never played, that I've bought, but just never got around to playing. And we call it the backlog, the gaming backlog. And it's something that haunts me, like it actually eats me up sometimes, because I will buy a game and I have the full intention of playing that game. Yet for some reason, work, life, kids, another game comes out and I let it go to the wayside. And it's really bothersome to me because I've got a mass backlog. I would say probably about 300 plus games that I either have full intentions of playing, or for one reason or another was either handed it, donated. I have a lot of friends and colleagues and siblings who will give me away some of their games, and I get these mass collections, and then I just never get a chance to play them because as I gotten older, I don't have the time. But that I want to start to change and tackle some of them because there are some awesome games. I was going through a couple of them as we were cleaning up because we're doing some cleanup here in the house and reorganizing things. And it really made me want to start tackling this backlog. Now this idea is a funny idea, a backlog. It really is. And I thought about it actually on New Year's Day when my wife and I were deciding to start to do some cleaning and reorganizing things in the house. When you have two kids, it becomes quite crazy and a lot of things get misplaced. So we wanted to get back into this organization and start the new year right. Well, looking at all these games, I started thinking about where this idea of a backlog came from, because I don't remember when I was a kid. Like, I don't remember when I was, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, ever really having a backlog. As I've said before on this channel, I did not have always the newest systems. It took a while for my parents to get us, both myself and my siblings, any type of video game, in part because they wanted us to go out and play and so on. So we didn't have this backlog of games. Like, I was sitting there thinking, my sister and I, my youngest sister, who's a big gamer as well, I don't remember us having 40, 50 games sitting there. At most, it was maybe 2 or 3 games in the backlog. My sister and I were pretty good at getting through things. And that's in part because when you're a kid, you're fully reliant on other people buying you those games, right? You don't have money. So you get gifts from your parents for Christmas or Easter or birthdays, or just the kindness of your parents' heart to get you those games. And that's all you got. And so you got maybe a handful of games a year. And I was thinking about myself. When I was younger, we got at maybe, at most 5 games a year. I remember getting one for my birthday, you get one or two for Christmas, and then somewhere sprinkled throughout the year you would get one, depending on how your parents were and whether or not they were in a good mood, bad mood, what was going on. So because of that, there was large intervals in between buying a game and then getting the next one. And so you spent that time really diving into the world, really playing and getting immersed in it. Whereas today, not only is there more games today, just because of the huge backlog of games going all the way back into the beginning of gaming, But there's more frequent releases, right? And there's more game developers, more publishers, more independent publishers putting out games. So the amount of games released today compared to when back in the 80s and 90s when I was a kid is huge. Like there's a big difference there. The other is I've gotten older. And as I've gotten older, um, my time is less. I don't have as much time to go play games or go and do things that I would like to do. I have other responsibilities. And as we know, based on survey data, most gamers, if you do a survey, most gamers, the average age is in their 30s. So we have these responsibilities that keep us from finishing or completing or even attempting some of these massive games, even though we buy them. And that's my other gripe, is I have no time now, but I have money. And so the sales that happen these days is ridiculous. Like we just had, what was it, the um, Boxing Day sales. Well, this year they've called it Boxing Week sales. So Best Buy, EB Games, Walmart, um, Amazon have all had these massive sales, and they're excellent sales. Steam, my goodness, Steam constantly has sales all the time. And you see a game, and it's super cheap, and you go, yeah, I kind of would like to play that. That's kind of something I would do. And then you go and you do it, but then you just don't have the time to finish them all. And I have a problem because you don't just buy one or two, usually. You end up buying like 4, 5, 6, 7. Like myself, when I went to EB Games, this was years ago, they had a sale on DS and 3DS games, and I remember it. And I had, a couple of DS and 3DS games, and I remember walking in there, and they were like $5. $5. And I was going, are you kidding me? So I was going through them, pulling out all kinds of games. I amassed a huge collection for the DS that, like, I haven't even scratched the surface of these games because I just don't have the time. I bought them because they were cheap, and I thought, this is so cool. I'll get to them eventually. And that's the thing with gamers in general, and why we don't have any time, is we're always like, oh, we want to do the next thing. We want to do the next thing. And we buy them. And part of that's psychology. Part of that's how our brain works, right? As a scientist, I understand that. Our brains are excited to go on to the next thing and to learn something new and do it. But you amass quite a backlog of games. And so I was looking and going through them and organizing a little bit. And so I decided years ago, about 2 years ago now, that I was going to try to tackle some of this backlog. And so I started out with only picking a couple of games and saying I really wanted to play these certain games for one reason or another. And I said I was going to do that. And I completed that objective. And then last year, for 2020, I wanted to do a list. And this actually is something that I've seen other YouTubers do, where they've talked about making a gaming list of games that they'd like to beat that year. A good example of one of those YouTubers is from Game Room Revival, right? He gave a list of things he wanted to do, and it kind of made me think about doing that as well and uploading some of my thoughts on the games that I've played this year and completed, as well as sharing my list for next year, or for, I guess, all this year, for 2021. So yeah, it's something to keep a list and go through and make these lists and make a game beating list for this year. Last year I did all right. I'm going to make a video about that, so you'll be able to see the games that were on that list. I didn't beat them all. Right? It was a strange year, right? The pandemic really messed a lot up. But yeah, so making these lists to try to go through them, because there are so many great games, and I want to experience them. And as many people know, my attention jumps very quickly in games, as well as even in ordinary life. My attention's taken very quickly, and I enjoy games. I enjoy their stories, and That is my downfall and why I don't often complete so many games, and I start many of them and just don't finish. But that's going to start to change. I want to get through some of these things. And yeah, but just thinking about backlogs, it's a weird idea. Because I don't remember as a kid ever having a backlog. We just didn't have that. But yeah, so what are your guys' thoughts? Well, how are you guys dealing with your backlogs? I mean, I use various sites like How Long to Beat and keep a list of what I've beaten and get an idea how long things should take me. And other things that I've learned as well with beating your backlog. This year, I think why I didn't complete some of them is I put a lot of long games like RPGs and things that took way longer than I thought. Plus, it was a weird year with a pandemic. But yeah, there were some games that were like 70 hours plus that I was like, oh my goodness, Yeah, I had a lot of fun, but I've learned that you have to sparse things out a bit and have not so many RPGs, some more action, maybe some more shorter games to balance them out. Because boy, if you just do RPGs, that's gonna be tough. And I love RPGs; they're one of my favorite genres for gaming. So I learned that you can't just do RPGs. So, but yeah, with that, what do you guys do to get through your game log? I'd be curious to know. So please, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and just share about what you would do with your gaming backlog. How do you tackle them? Do you stop buying games? Do you play a game to completion and then buy a next one? Like, what do you do? And with that, please have a wonderful day and have a wonderful 2021. Thank you. Bye-bye.